Good morning and good afternoon to all of today's attendees. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Family Office 4.0, Personalizing Your Family Office. Today we will be having an open discussion on how wealth management is evolving into what a landmark by ESI ThoughtLab study calls Wealth Management 4.0, and why it's time for family office space to evolve with it. We will discuss the new frontier and how family offices use Wealthtech to distinguish themselves from their competition, hyper-personalize their client service, and provide value-add services such as bill pay. I want to thank Bill.com for being a sponsor of today's webinar. Bill.com is a leading provider of cloud-based software that digitalizes and automates back office financial operations for small and mid-sized businesses in the wealth management industry. Customers use the Bill.com platform to manage end-to-end financial workflows and to quickly process payments with their AI-enabled platform. Before we get started today, I want to introduce our guest speaker, April Rudin, who is the founder and CEO of the Rudin Group. April was ranked #1 as an online wealth management influencer with over 75,000 social media followers. She has contributed to 14 media outlets in 2020 like Forbes, Financial Times, Financial Planning, Wall Street Journal, and wealthmanagement.com. April, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Lindsay. It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome to everyone who's joining us.
Thank you. Before we get started, April, would you like to give us a little bit more background on yourself?
Sure. So I'm excited to be here for Professionalizing Your Family Office today. I founded my firm, the Rudin Group, almost 13 years ago around the idea of the wealth transfer, changing millennial and next gen values and passions, along with fintech, Wealthtech, which we're talking about today, martech, and bringing these services to family offices who wanted to acquire more clients, wealth management firms, funds, asset managers, and so on. So I spend my day pretty squarely in the wealth tech space every single day.
Wonderful. April, we are thrilled to have you today. Before we jump into our questions, I do want to tell all of our attendees, we of course encourage your questions as well. There is a questions chat option on the right side of your screen. You can send over all questions. At the end of our presentation, we will make sure we get to them. So April, let's get started. If you could tell us, what does it mean to get Family Office 4.0?
Yeah, so Family Office 4.0 came to me after I saw something that was a research study done by ESI ThoughtLab, which was called Wealth Management 4.0. And I connected the two things, obviously, for wealth management and family office. So ESI ThoughtLab is a thought leadership and a research firm here based in the US. And basically, it talks about in this particular iteration that wealth management has really reached its fourth 4.0 and its fourth evolution of wealth management. And so what does that mean? And what were the first 4 steps? So basically, if you think about it, wealth management 1.0 and, a great portion of family office 1.0 consisted mostly of just trading stocks and bonds. And then wealth management 2.0, or again, family office 2.0, took place in the 1960s, 1970s, and that was the rise of index funds, private equity, venture capital, a lot of new vehicles with which to invest. Wealth Management 3.0 is what most of us probably on this call today are familiar with, and that's more around electronic age of wealth management. And that's really started to take hold in the 1990s and includes online trading and banking, a lot of which we have today. So when we think about Wealth Management 4.0, I know that was a little bit long-winded, but when we think about Wealth Management 4.0, which brings us to Family Office 4.0, it's important to think about what the future might hold. And just to quote something from the ESI research study, it's the rise of a digital-first, socially minded world, which is accompanied by the demographic change, which is reinventing the industry again. And so with the rise of ultra high net worth and high net worth investors comes this opportunity to satisfy and to solve for pain points and opportunities also that might arise for these firms.
Fantastic. Now, April, what are some hallmarks of this new digital first world, and what are some ways that the wealth management industry is kind of adapting to this change? And what trends are you seeing?
So I would say that one of the key trends that I'm seeing, and one of the major hallmarks really of communicating with your own employees, if you're a single family office, or communicating with your outside clients and your own employees, so your internal and external communications if you're an MFO, are the ways that which people really want it when they want it. In other words, people really want information, whether it has to do with educational information or whether it's simply reporting from a firm. They want it when they want it and the way they want it. And investors, and often your own employees, right, don't want to have meetings. They don't want to go to physical locations anymore. And each time they meet is, you know, getting fewer and fewer and far between. So coming up with a plan that meets digital first, as well as hybrid, as well as people who are going to physical locations, is really important in terms of communication. And also, if you think about your client communications as well, people want meetings really through video conferencing. I know a lot of advisors and family offices have told me that they've had much more meaningful and deeper family meetings as people are more available to come to meetings, stay longer at meetings, and want a greater sense of family. And then also those have become, in the days that we have now with the variant, you know, more like contactless meetings. In the past, it was, you know, enough for wealth management firms or multifamily offices to really just have a functioning website. And I think today people understand even single family offices need to manage their online reputation, have a website, use social media, and basically take control of their own personal brand. As you know, the way Google indexes it, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, I think, are number 1, 2, and 3. So very important to manage your own reputation by having some sort of online presence there. And today, also, multifamily offices and also those doing direct deals and others might find that they really need to have apps that have great UIs, UX, and active social media presence to stay competitive, get information, and get in front of your clients. And it's amazing how much more efficient and productive people can be using some of these changes and these new platforms. So another hallmark today, I would say, and another trend would be really the speed of innovation. It's really remarkable when you think about it, how quickly people have gotten up to speed. I mean, even in the days of COVID, you know, firms were really basically running within the first couple days, hours, you know, differences, you know, in firm size and so on. But people really got around to the way that they were able to bring their businesses online. And so that speed of innovation is really remarkable. And also taking a look at opportunities with technologies like AI are also evolving things, impacting everything from AI enhanced risk management to the types of services and investment products that are available. But another area that's come to the forefront quite a bit these days has been cryptocurrency, and firms that are ignoring it or families that are ignoring it should really just take a look into it and get more educated, because if you're a multifamily office and you're serving clients, you should know that 72% of high net worth individuals have invested in cryptocurrencies, and 74% have invested in other digital assets such as website domains and other sorts of alternative assets, according to Capgemini's World Wealth Report from 2021.
Now, April, let's add on to that a little bit. So how well are family offices adapting to this digital first world? And, you know, are you seeing this adaptation happening as an industry, or tell us a little bit about that?
So family offices are really recognizing the need to adapt to this digital first world, whether they're multifamily offices or single family offices. I think the pandemic has certainly accelerated the need for doing that, and the want and need, again, for information when you want it, how you want it, and keeping it safe as well. So uh, the digital first world was part of a survey that Deloitte did recently, and it conducted before its 2020 National Family Office Forum, and that they found in this survey that enhancing operations was the most pressing challenge that single family offices wanted to work on through technology or process changes. And single family offices are really handling this challenge, or really, you know, planning on handling it through outsourcing primarily. So some firms, some family offices will insource and have their own staff, but today many firms are taking a look at outsourcing as a way of managing their processes and their technology. So as the 2020 report also notes, outsourcing allows, and this is the primary reason, single family offices to draw from their providers specialized knowledge to address these systemic inefficiencies. So it allows you to bring in best in class people for each one of these different operation areas, rather than trying to staff up and find people who are knowledgeable in all these areas. So outsourcing is definitely part of the new trend that we can see in this digital first world. And I think, you know, we can see single family offices moving toward outsourcing technology as part of just a larger movement in wealth management. So even for our multifamily offices, thinking about their tech stack, thinking about what their best in class offerings are, and how they're going to differentiate their businesses from other multifamily offices, technology can be a really powerful driver.
Awesome. Okay, next question. You know, this is one that I think everyone is going to want to know about, because over the last, over a year and a half now, we've been in a global pandemic, right? So how has this pandemic impacted the use of wealth tech platforms?
So as I mentioned before, I mean, the pandemic has definitely been an accelerant to digital first and to then wealth tech platforms. And wealth tech platforms are all technology really underlies or should really single family offices and multifamily offices today. So I think even people that were hesitant were driven to really the digital first world. And now that we know that we can do it, right, there's just a even greater push to refine what we do even more, find best in class vendors in all these different categories, and really come up with different ways of outsourcing and managing wealth tech platforms within organizations, whether they be single family offices or multifamily offices. So the other thing that we shouldn't take for granted also is the added challenge of being in a regulated, compliant industry. So managing compliance and regulatory concerns while working from home, working from hybrid, and working from the office is another potential area that can be outsourced, or something that firms should really be working on, because obviously the intensity and the opportunity for fails has just grown exponentially with the work from home environment.
Now, given that we've all experienced this together, worldwide, this shared event, COVID-19, how do you feel family offices can help lead the narrative going forward?
So, I mean, it's very interesting, right? Because I don't think anybody's ever going to go back. I mean, this is just my opinion, and I don't have a crystal ball here, but I don't think everybody's going to go back to the way things were. And so, in between, I think those people who are smart are going to think about what opportunities have been created as a result of the pandemic. In other words, what is the white space to which people can go and either make investments, create opportunities for businesses, or really just leverage these new things that have opened up. So things like, delivery, that was never, a popular, prominent business. Some of these underlying frameworks, right, can be, will be the, will be the underpinnings for businesses going forward, because now all of these things are really being, I'm sorry for saying the term, but being disrupted, right? So I think as part of what family offices can do, though, they're leading the narrative through their ability to outsource technology and then to involve next generation. So I know that one of the concerns that many matriarchs and patriarchs bring is how to involve their next generation, and Wealthtech or professionalizing and using these platforms can be one way to get some of your next geners involved. It can also be used from multifamily offices as a way of recruiting, because obviously professionalizing your family office is really important in a competitive work environment like we have for attracting top talent. So having the best in technology is a big driver for recruiting as well. Um, so the collaboration with wealth tech firms is also on the horizon, and it's something that family offices can do, is to be aware of which providers and what types of wealth tech platforms are out there and how they may best professionalize their family office or best outsource something to a particular vendor or use a platform to bring their family and their family forward. So it's really that all of this collaboration that we're talking about, and which really is just more than alpha. In the past, people were really driven more to, seeking alpha and their returns of their portfolios. And today, more and more family offices want to do more with foundations, with philanthropy, with ESG, and the wealth tech platforms can give access to the investments, access for these donations, and so on. So you can also get access to things like ESG investment criteria. You can really get a lot of educational materials and get up to speed. And so I think if you ask what family offices can do, it's getting the entire family involved in a collaboration and a partnership, and not try to do everything on your own. So again, that applies whether you're a single family office or a multifamily office. I think the ability and the willingness to outsource demonstrates that your firm really wants to do things that are top notch, and also keeping an eye on expenses.
Great, and let's switch gears a little bit based on everything you just told us. So what would you say the leading wealth tech platforms that family offices may want to consider? Who are those platforms?
So I really don't, try to name too many names. It really comes down to what the family office is looking for. And there are so many different wealth tech platforms and so many different categories out there. Some are more comprehensive, but others are more point solutions. So it's really difficult to say what are the best or what kind of platforms are really out there. Some, for example, handle financial planning. Others do risk management, others do reporting, operations, or ESG monitoring. There's a lot of different wealth tech categories, and then some are point solutions, as I said, meaning that they take care of each one of these things individually, and others are, you can have more comprehensive wealth management platforms really that you can use. There's a lot of different options out there. You might want to read or follow me or Francois Botha, who also writes for Forbes. And there's an article that he did in 2020 on a family office software roundup. But family offices might also want to try, wealth tech platforms that have specific sort of add-ons or point solutions. So for example, Bill.com would be an example of that. Bill.com is a point solution that provides cloud-based software that simplifies and really automates all of the complexity around bill pay. So whether you're a single family office and you run the accounting function and you need to pay bills for the family and different entities, Bill.com is, a platform that you might want to take a look at. And whether you're a multifamily office and you want to use it as a differentiator and you want to use the bill pay function as a way of getting close to your clients. In other words, if you're a multifamily office and you're doing the bill pay function, I highly recommend it because it gives you really firsthand knowledge and really the organic knowledge on where your clients' expenses are, where they're spending money, and what opportunities you might have to advise them moving forward. So different ways to get sticky. So again, lots of opportunities by offering something like bill pay. it really can be a game changer for family offices, and especially due to the complexity and just the huge number of bills that are to be paid.
Now, April, are any of these platforms considered maybe low-hanging fruit to get started, or do any of them have an easier onboarding process?
So I wouldn't call any platform sort of low-hanging fruit. People need to make the commitment financially and then also time-wise to get to know these platforms and figure out how they're used and make sure that they're not just using something sort of at the surface, but they're really understanding more about how the technology platform works and how it can really change their business. So being more fluid about your business processes are really important. One option for, again, firms to sort of get their feet wet would be for a point solution, as I was talking about before. So something like bill pay or something like ESG investing criteria where you can subscribe to different data feeds, depending on whether it's the family or the employees who are interested in using that information. Those could be, two different areas that you can look at. And I think also that, family offices are sometimes hesitant to upgrade their software because people might be accustomed to already using it, they get comfortable with it. But I think it's really important to know that it's more of a financial hindrance not to upgrade and to get people with more skills and giving them more information because technology, again, as I was saying before, is moving at such an accelerated pace. So I would say that, just lastly, that more and more due to software as a service and cloud-based solutions, they're really, the prices have come down, things are more affordable, and many more choices that are available for family offices to look at.
Now, when implementing a wealth tech platform, what should a family office consider in terms of control, risk, and security?
So I would say in terms of control, risk, and security, it comes down to researching a wealth tech platform and specifically looking at the kinds of risk controls that they offer. But it's more than that. It's also creating policies and procedures around risk. So it's not just what the wealth tech platform, it's not like you can buy a platform that's going to be a panacea for everything. You still need to come up with policies and procedures. So whether that's outsourced to risk management or to legal counsel, coming up with your own policies along with an ability to implement them is important, and that's how risk can be addressed. Family offices might find that they even want to go above and beyond different categories of protection, like application protections for different things that they might be doing, or payment protections, or network or data protections, or even compliance protections. So there's a lot that comes into risk and protecting information that family offices have. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but I will say that cloud applications can really help with that. And so those firms and people who've adopted cloud have definitely felt a real benefit there. Federal regulations require now that cloud services for financial services provide data security and business continuity, so family offices can really get a built-in level of security, not only for themselves and their own business, but also for their end clients if they do have end clients.
Thanks, April. Now, in my experience, there seems to be a huge distrust in technology within family offices these days. How can a family office deal with this huge problem of cybersecurity when this increasing distrust seems to be permanent in the space? According to recent surveys that I've read, almost half of all family offices have no formal cybersecurity plan in place.
Well, first of all, everybody should have a cybersecurity and a formal cybersecurity plan in place. I mean, even for us as individuals, I don't know about yourself, but I've, of course, been the victim of cybersecurity hack. And I would just encourage everyone to move away from the one password you might be using and really take cybersecurity seriously, particularly where we are likely in a work from home environment for the foreseeable future, or hybrid, where we're switching data and using data back and forth between them. So it's really important to have a cybersecurity plan in place. Again, outsourcing that function might make sense for your family office. So it's interesting that you mentioned distrust again, because I think it comes down to also researching the wealth tech firm and maybe even getting referrals or testimonials from some of your peers or other people that you know in the industry. And again, looking at the type of risk controls that everything offers. And another important point I think for people to consider is that distrust comes from unfamiliarity. And so one way for family offices to combat that is by researching the wealth tech firms and the wealth tech platforms to become more familiar with them. And the more familiar you are with them, the less likely you are to distrust technology. And the more information you gain, the more educated, the more you develop a certain sense of really comfort level with using all of these different platforms. So I think it's really important to, you know, give the same sort of scrutiny, if not more, and education that you would for any other part of your business.
Definitely. Now, also the issue of privacy remains as a constant issue in family office space. So how can a family office truly professionalize their family office and maintain the ultra high level of security as well?
So technology is really the answer here as well. I mean, you could just as easily leave a file folder in a taxi in your car or have something stolen. It's not like paper files are really better than having digital online files. So, but as you said, there's a level of distrust, particularly in family office technology, which again might be another reason to outsource that function to experts, but also not an excuse, I'll say, not to learn as much as you can about cybersecurity yourself. So I think the level of data security that these outsourced solutions can provide is certainly more than family offices need, and they've already thought about different protocols. So family offices can definitely benefit from that. And I think even smaller ones, people have to realize might be even more vulnerable. So where it might seem like an expense, it definitely is a protection that you should put into place.
So what are the benefits of being an early adopter of the new wealth tech offerings? On the flip side, what are some potential concerns if a single family office and a multi-family office fail to adapt?
So for multifamily offices, the main benefit is really differentiating yourself from the competition. So today, with wealth management and family office services being commoditized, it's really important the way you market yourself and some of the service and hyper-personalization that you can provide to your clients. And the best way to do that, obviously, is through technology platforms. So I would say that that's a real benefit to family offices for that. Too often, family offices become really too complacent and thinking the length of time that they've worked with a family really ensures that the first 20 years will lead to the next 20 years, and that's not really true. Something like 98% I've read of wealth inheritors change advisors, and which should be top of mind for multifamily offices. And then also 75% of widows will change financial advisors within the first year of their husband's demise. So I think these are really important things to keep in place. So people do not have a lock on clients. And so that becomes one of the big differentiators. And that folds into really talking about the opportunity for new clients given the great wealth transfer. And that's been estimated as much as 68 trillion from baby boomers to younger generations. And high net worth investors, especially the younger ones, the next gen ones, want more than just alpha from their wealth managers. They want to see ESG data. They want ESG investment products. They want information about their holdings digitally, right? They want, reporting at the speed of light. And they want all of those sort of value adds. So family offices really are not going to be able to do that without embracing wealth tech platforms. And for single family offices, well, sorry, I was just going to say, for single family offices, really the main benefit is to become more efficient and more productive and really enhancing the operation inside the family office. So single family offices become more accurate. And also single family offices need to think about recruiting as much as multifamily offices. So having a great and a cool tech stack people may find is a great recruiting tool as well.
Thank you. Now, what would some ways be that you can give us that single family offices and multifamily offices can use these wealth tech platforms maybe to help with other things like staffing, efficiency, data insights, kind of, etc.?
Yeah, so it really comes down to technology like AI and machine learning, making workflows more efficient. I think everybody sort of recognizes that by now. And you could have a team of analysts, right, internally going through the data and ultimately coming up with the same insights as using an AI wealth tech platform could come up with in a matter of minutes. So I think that, gone are sort of the days of people staffing up and now realizing the economies of scale and the proficiency with which offices can operate using wealth tech platforms. So I think, in the end, the result is the same. It's just going to be the difference is the cost and the amount of time to getting there.
So as costs are rising and smaller returns hurt profit margins, outsourcing for family offices is one way to reduce costs and attain operational efficiency. Leveraging the technology and experts of the third parties can mitigate the risks associated with in-house functions. April, can you discuss how leveraging third parties can help in this situation?
Sure. So when I think about outsourcing, whether it's for my own business, and I do outsource quite a few different functions, or whether it's clients' businesses, I just think of it as freeing up time and bringing on expertise and resources to an organization so that it can concentrate on whatever its main business is, rather than expending time and energy and dollars on things that are not core to your business. So if you think about single family offices, for example, I mean, what does a single family office do best? Its employees are spending time managing financial portfolio with the financial, objectives of families in mind. So spending time and institutional knowledge of that family's roots and the things that are important to them are extremely valuable. And wealth tech really doesn't address that. So having people that know what the peculiarities or sensitivities might be with the family is really important, and still maintaining that human touch. And so that's an area where I think wealth tech would not be helpful. But I think, there are certainly other areas like in single family offices and multifamily offices can all use AI driven platforms for financial planning and advice. That's another thing that can be outsourced. That's sort of, I think, a no-brainer and probably one of the greatest areas of adoption. And I think, for forecasting, reporting has started to really pick up in terms of many different reporting platforms that are driven by all of the great data and analytics firms that we have now. So that is providing great fodder for all of our reporting platforms. So I think there's also an opportunity then for another area that we can talk about for outsource, which would be accounting and bill pay, which enables single family offices to really spend their time managing money and increasing wealth and protecting wealth and providing for the family rather than on the mundane and routine accounting and bill pay functions. So I think that's another area for people to look at, and that early adopters, particularly in the multifamily office side of things, will allow them to have a differentiator with bill pay, meaning that they are able to offer something different than, say, the RIA or the family office down the street.
Now, from a UBS survey, 87% of family office respondents agree that artificial intelligence will be the biggest disruptive force in global business. Can you give your perspective on this, April, as AI relates to family offices?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about AI during this talk so far, and about which things it can and can't help. And I think when people think about disruption, they automatically assume that it's a bad thing rather than just a thing. And or something that can be a real driver and a help. So I think that families and family offices are starting to see that now. But I feel differently, especially, as it comes to AI. How AI will AI change family offices? Well, of course it will, but whether that disruption is negative or whether it's used as a positive will be up to either the family members or the managing committee or managing group of the multifamily office. So I think it's just adapting. If you want to professionalize your family office, which is the talk and center of our webinar today, I think you need to think about what are the Wealthtech platforms, what should you be outsourcing, and whether or not you want to embrace disruption or you want to, continue to keep things the same. And that, of course, is, I think, a losing proposition.
Now, what about the use of robotic process automation? It seems like automating routine manual tasks is another technology-related opportunity for family offices. This allows employees to focus on higher value activities. What are your thoughts on this?
So I think it relates back to, my earlier comment just about outsourcing, and family offices, when they think about outsourcing, can really benefit from outsourcing back office operations. So robotic process automation is like outsourcing some of the mundane, repetitive tasks to AI. So is it a good thing? Of course, it's a good thing. And because it's back office, it allows employees then, especially front office employees, to concentrate on higher value activities and the things that they're best at and things that really require a human touch. Plus, it reduces the likelihood of human error. And then from a compliance standpoint, it's really defensible. So I will add a caveat here, which is that, there always needs to be some human monitoring of RPA and any sort of automated process. As I was saying before, you want to have best in class people who are creating documentation and who are setting the standards and figuring out how it is and what it is that you're going to do to implement these platforms. So, yeah.
And what are some ways that single family offices and multifamily offices can use Wealthtech to enhance succession planning?
So I think, one area that Wealthtech platforms can help family offices with sophisticated modeling tools and presentations. So it helps family offices provide guidance that's spot on and timely and provides it in an easy to comprehend format. And that's one thing for a single family office to tell a wealthy family, like, this is what you should do with your family's wealth. And it's, quite another thing to be able to show the models and say, here are the models showing the different choices that you have and what the result of each choice looks like, and allowing people to really look at some of the underlying data and see how things might play out. So I think, in terms of succession planning and thinking about understanding the financial picture of each family, that's just one way that Wealthtech platforms can help. And I think, in terms of succession planning, also with regard to multifamily offices and some of the legacy planning that they might do, it can help with family governance and education and some of the softer things that multifamily offices provide. And then some of those same applications are also available for single family offices as well. So something as technical as RPA and something like as soft as, say, family governance are all available on Wealthtech platforms. And then as far as succession planning, I would say also that single family offices can rely on estate planning tools also, and that might be or something interesting, or M&A activity that you might access through a Wealthtech platform. So that could be a succession plan on the part of either single family or multifamily office as well.
Thank you, April. Now let's talk about the future a little bit here before we move into our Q&A from our audience. April, looking forward, how do you expect Wealthtech to continue to evolve, and how will that affect family offices?
So I guess, just a roundup of what we've talked about today, like AI machine-based learning, and outsourcing mundane and routine tasks like bill pay can be really good ways of helping use wealth tech and ways for family offices to evolve into the future and become the family office 4.0 that they always want to be, and professionalizing themselves. So I think we're going to see the increase in terms of sophistication on the part of the user, but also on the part of the wealth manager.
Wonderful. Thank you, April. April, what a pleasure it was to have you join us today. Thank you so very much. I am going to send out a quick polling question to all of our audience here, if you don't mind responding to that poll. Then we're going to move into Q&A. Again, we really encourage your questions. April is joining us now. She'll be here with till the end of the presentation. So go ahead and send over anything that you would like. I sent out that poll. I'm going to... Okay, so polling, I will go ahead and get that closed. Thank you to everyone who answered. I'll just give you a few more seconds. It looks like some responses are still coming through. So thank you. Okay, let's close that up. Great, perfect. I'm also going to be putting up here on my screen the information for bill.com. So if you would like to contact them directly, that is their direct information there. So April, first question that's come through. What was the resource again for bill paying?
The resource, one of them is bill.com, who's the sponsor of this webinar. And the contact information is right there.
Great. Thank you, Kip, for the question. That actually is the only question that has pulled through so far. So we are definitely able to hang tight for a little bit to see if anyone has any additional questions. I do want to say, my name is Lindsay from Family Office Networks. I will be following up with everyone individually as well. So if there's any more information that you would like from April or from bill.com, we can make sure that you get that as well. Is there anything else you would like to add today, April?
No, I just want to thank you, thank everyone for attending today, and it's been a pleasure to have this chat. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Again, that seems to be all the questions, so we will go ahead and get signed off for now, but if there's anything else anybody you would like to ask, we will be in touch. Thanks, April. You have a great day.
You too, Lindsay.
Thanks.